Hi, I'm Dan, welcome to the Airbrush Garage. If you're new here, welcome. If you're returning, thanks for coming back. Today, I'm going to show you how I painted this Cardinal on this birdhouse. It's a really cool and fun project because it really does show a lot of different techniques and tools that you could use. Everything from cutting paper masks to freehand airbrushing to adding some highlights with a very fine brush. So it really does cover a wide range of techniques. So I'm really looking forward to showing it to you. So stick around, see how it's done. With that, leave me a couple comments, good or bad. It really helps out with the YouTube algorithm and help build this channel. Don't forget to check out all my Amazon affiliate links and my other links down below for all the products I use in these videos. And with that, let's get started. All right, so I'm gonna start off by cutting out the paper mask. I decided only to use the red Cardinal. So I'm gonna cut out the biggest parts of the Cardinal and I'm gonna leave some behind, like the eye, the black of the face, and the beak. I'm also going to leave the branch behind at this point. Now, as you can see as I'm cutting, I'm trying to keep the point of the blade down or pick it up as little as possible. The other thing you can see is that on my table I have a cutting mat. Once I have the mask cut, I'm going to position it on my work surface. As you can see, I cut away any excess so I could tape it down very securely. I'm going to be starting off with opaque white because I'm using Createx Wicked colors and all of the colors are transparent and they won't cover over the yellow very well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fog everything in with the opaque white and get a nice white base. The other thing I'd like to mention is I'm using all Iwata airbrushes here, and I'm using an Iwata Eclipse, an Iwata HPCH, and an Iwata HPCH Plus. So now I'm going to be coming in with the Wicked Red, and I'm going to add a little bit of Scarlet just to darken it up a little bit. Now I'm just getting a basic shape here, but I want to block that in with the red the best I can at this point. And you want to work in light layers. So now, the piece that I cut out, I'm going to place back in, or I'm going to be placing the positive mask into the negative mask. And I'm going to be spraying the black of the face. Now off camera, I did cut that out. So I'm just spraying in little spots of black where it shows up on my reference. Now, I do have the reference photo hanging above, and you want to pay attention very closely to your reference. So again, I'm just spotting in all of the dark areas or the black areas, the eye, the black of the face, a little bit on the wing, and some on the tail. You just want to hold these paper masks down securely with your fingers so you don't get any paint blowing underneath the mask. So it's very important that you're at a 90 degree to your mask and you don't want to angle the paint where it's going to blow underneath the mask. It's very important when you're using paper masks. So now I'm using a very small, or the smallest, Big Shield by Art Tool, and I'm just getting some basic shapes of the feathers in the tail. So now I'm cutting out the beak. I kept the beak for last, and I'm going to cut it out in two parts. The lower part of the beak, I'm going to fog that in with a little bit of red. Then I'm going to cut out the upper part of the beak. This is going to make it look like, you know, there's a separation instead of trying to paint it all at one time between the upper and the lower beak. So you can see that yellow in there. Now I'm going to be painting, you know, fogging that in, but I'm going to use that yellow to my advantage. So I wanted some fine details, so I decided to pull out a golden nylon round 3/0 paintbrush. And just using the very tip of that paintbrush, dabbing it in just so slightly in the opaque white and adding some really fine hairs or feathers up around the face and adding a little detail or highlights to the eye. So back to the little big shield, just going in and defining a little bit more of the feathers in the tail. A little bit of white, a little bit of black. Again, following my reference photo. Then I pull out my trusty old fire template that I've been using for the last 20 plus years. Now I got the medium-sized big shield from Art Tool. With a few shields you can find almost any curve or line that you're looking for. Those big shields by Art Tool are just a great, great tool to have in your box. I'm back just blocking in some more red, just darkening it up a little bit. Now I'm back to that 3.0 brush. And again, this is so gentle. I can't explain how gentle it is. You're just using the very tip of that brush. A very fine brush. You see I'm just using a little bit of white right out of my cup. Now that is the reduced pink. You'll see later on where I just take it straight out of the bottle, where I want a little bit more intensity on the highlight. These are also going to be layered, so I am going to be painting over them and then coming back and re-hitting highlights again. And again, all of the layers just build texture, giving you a look that has more depth to it. So as you can see, I'm layering back over the highlights with a little bit of red. And back in to re-highlight with the brush. So when you layer like that, you find that you're pushing back those first set of highlights. It gives you, it dulls them down, and then you're coming back in with fresh highlights and brightens them up, and you're getting all of these different intensities of highlights, which really creates, depth. Here I'm just cutting out the claws. Now as far as cutting right on your surface, this takes practice. I do want to mention that cutting on your surface takes practice. If you push too hard, you risk going into your, project below. I do have a video on how to cut transfer tape. It's the same technique, cutting transfer tape, as it is these paper templates. So lighter is better than harder. Just keep practicing. If you find you didn't get all the way through the first time, just again lightly go over your same lines and you'll be much better off, because if you dig into your project, you're not going to be happy with it. So this is another technique that really needs to be learned, along with everything else that you're learning to try to do with airbrushing. So I'm actually using a little bit of gray right here. It's just regular Wicked Gray is what I'm using for the base on the claws. I'm also going to be using that on the branch, just as a base color. So here I'm cutting the branch. So while I have the gray out, we'll get that base put on too for the branch. All right, so now I'm going to be coming in putting the base coat on the branch, and I'm going to be coming in with my opaque white again. So as you can see here, I'm using my shield to hold down my paper template. This helps out a lot and allows a bigger surface or area of the paper to be held down with a template. So this really does come in handy. So just grab one of your templates or your shields, and you can see how nice that holds that edge down. Just make sure you keep spraying down at your paper and not under. You just want to build that up slowly in light layers. You get a nice base of white on there. Then you want to come back with some gray. And we're going to use that as our base color. I'm going to spray the edges of the paper template because it's going to be my darkest of my darks. And of course your highlight is going to be more in the middle of the branch, giving it a 3D or a rounded effect. I'm just using my shield there to set the separation between the tail and the branch and make sure I get a nice clean look. And there I'm just using my shield to get out to the edge of my project because my paper template didn't go all the way out to the edge. Now I'm coming back in with a little bit of black. I'm going to start adding some black to the darkest of the darks. Of course, underneath the branch and on top of the branch where the branch rolls back. And we'll come back in a minute and I'm going to show you how I did the highlights for the branch. And I'll be set more toward the middle of the branch, again giving it a rounded effect. So I came in also with a little bit of green. Looking at my reference photo, it needed a little bit of something and it looked like green to me, so I came in and just added a little touch of green to it and it gave a really nice effect. So I needed to add some highlights, or actually a lot of highlights. So I grabbed my 3.0 brush again and just started dabbing them in. Again, just using the very, very tip of that brush. It didn't take me long to figure out that this was going to take a little while. The highlights are coming great, but just felt like it was going to take me a little too long. So I looked up and I saw my fan brush. This was a great idea. You just dab the very, very edges of that fan brush in the white paint and just very, very lightly dab it. And it really gives me a really nice highlighted speckle effect. So now I put my template back over and I'm going to come back in again with a little bit of gray and a little bit of black, just to darken up those darkest of darks. Because now I want to push back those highlights just a little bit so they're not so bright. Now I pull out the 3.0 brush again and add just a little bit of highlight to the claws. Just takes a very light touch. So as you can see, it was a really good exercise in using a lot of different techniques for airbrushing, for everything from using a paper mask to using your shields to using a brush for highlights. A lot of times people say, well, I don't like using a brush because it's not airbrushing. Anything that you can use to achieve the effect that you're looking to achieve is okay in my book. And every now and then, I like to mix it up because I'm not used to using the paintbrush myself. So I like to try new things. Now just a few finishing touches here and there. Go back and see if you need to touch anything up or if you missed anything. A few finishing touches and that's about it. There you have it. Well, there you have it. Hopefully you liked this video. Hopefully you got something from it and you took some techniques that I went over in this video. I got out of my box a little bit and got that paintbrush to do some highlights. I'm usually all for just airbrushing and utilizing the airbrush to do those type of things and not use a regular brush. But I do like to step out of my box and try new things, and that's what you should do too. Never be afraid to experiment. Worst that could happen is it doesn't work out. So with that, I hope you like this content. If you do, consider subscribing, hit that bell so you get future notifications. Don't forget to check out all those Amazon affiliate links and all the other links down below for the products I use in these videos. And with that, we'll see you in the next video.